What up? What up? How you guys doing? What's up? What's up, man? It's your man Sean P coming in live. This is the Sean P Experience live on YouTube. We are back, season three, right? Episode two, season three. My next guest up. I got a very very fun episode, man. It's gonna be great. I got my man Will in the building. For a lot of y'all that don't know, all this Sean P Experience stuff came from my fitness background, my own personal fitness journey. That's how I came into this game. That's how I started speaking. That's how I started writing. And having an episode like this, I get a chance to tap back into those original roots a little bit and have some fun talking about health, fitness, and wellness, things that are real, real foundational for me to this day, man. So thanks for coming on to the show. Will, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir. Let me do your official introduction, man. So today we are joined by Will Loiseau, health span strategist, award-winning author, and the founder of True Iron Will. I love that name. Will help people live stronger, longer, and better through science-backed fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle programs. He's the author of Young at Any Age, The Secret to Slowing Down the Aging Process, and Quake, Horror and Hope in Haiti. Will's mission? To help all of us take control of our health, boost vitality, and thrive at any age. And today, we got this brand new publication, Young at Any Age, How to Feel Younger, Longer. I give you guys Will.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Will, before we get started, I love a good origin story, right? So tell us, how did you come into health and fitness and working out, all those things? How did you come into that as a young brother, I guess?
Yeah, so I was always into, sports and always active when I was younger. And, I had issues with, bronchitis and asthma and things like that used to slow me down. So I was pretty frustrating. And as I started to mature, I just started to notice that, there was people around me. And this is way I'm really fast forwarding, but I used to notice that there was people around me that were suffering from chronic issues, and myself included. So I had, I was asthmatic, had bronchitis, allergies, and a lot of ailments, and I started to ask questions. So going to school and taking collegiate courses in nutrition and health and things like that, I just wasn't finding the answer that I knew, I was looking for. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew that I wasn't getting what I was looking for in the classroom. So through trial and error, I started to, just do more research and do more studying outside of the classroom. And, slowly but surely that led me down a different path where I started to find things that were working for me and working for other people as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I love to ask any athlete person, how did your writing journey start? Like, when did you start writing? How did you start writing? And who inspired you when it comes to writing?
Wow. Well, man, I was writing since I was 5 or 6. So I used to love writing, man. I started writing in a diary, that's how I started writing. And just kept writing like little notes about like what went on through the day and what my thoughts were, and started getting that down on paper. And, all throughout school, I would enter writing contests. So right when I was like in my formative years, I won a writing contest, and that changed everything because I actually got paid for it. You know what I'm saying? It was a little check. I don't even remember how much it was, but I got a little check, and I actually got my name in the local, like they used to call it the penny saver. It was like the local paper, right? And I got my name in that paper, and that started clicking with me, right? And would write poems and things like that. And my first year in college, I was actually going to school for physical therapy, but I was taking an English course. And at the end of the class one day, when the teacher was handing out papers, the teacher told me to wait after class, or I was like going to be the last one to get my paper. So, I was thinking it was bad, man. I was thinking I did really bad on that paper. But what the professor ended up telling me was that, you're asking me if I have ever thought of becoming a writer. And at the time, even though I was writing all throughout childhood, I just didn't think that that was something that I could do as a career. So I kind of, I was like, yeah, I appreciate the compliment, but I really didn't take it serious. But that always stuck in my mind. So fast forward years later, I was at a party on Long Island, and I approached a published author, and I asked him, I said, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book, but I don't know what to write about. And he just told me something simple. He just said, just write about what you know. So fast forward a year later, and that's when my family and I went to Port-au-Prince, Haiti for my grandmother's funeral. And the 7.0 magnitude earthquake in Port-au-Prince, Haiti happened. 300,000 people dead and over 1 million people displaced and homeless. And just coming back from that experience, again, I didn't plan to write, but I started writing. And the images just started coming back, and it just became a form of therapy. So I was just putting that stuff down. And after a few weeks, I was just writing more and more. And my friends were like, hey, this is the book that you always tell me that you want to write. I didn't even know that I was telling them I always wanted to write a book, but that's how it started, And to answer your other question, who are the writers that inspired me? I would say number one on the list would be Richard Wright, because after I read Native Son, this was at a time when I wasn't reading any books. You know what I mean? But it was an assignment for a class. It was a class assignment, and I read that book. And every time I put the book down, I couldn't wait to open the book to read what the next section was going to be. And that's what started it. And that's what reignited my love for reading and reignited my love for writing.
Thank you very much for that, man. So before we dive into the book, as far as the main contents of the book, what inspired you to write? Young at any age, what made you want to write that particular topic?
Well, that book came out of noticing how often people blame age for what's really accumulated stress and unfinished recovery. So as an athlete myself, I was going through these elements, and I would ask the same question, and I would look at my peers, and my peers would have, similar issues. So being a personal trainer and working with as many people as I have, I got a lot of experience, a lot of dialogue with people going through real life problems. And it was just something that I was doing every day. So just going back to what that author said, write about what you know, it just felt like it was time for me to write another book. That was my inspiration, and I put it down.
Was there a particular, I mean, no names used, but was there a particular client or a particular situation in training that made you say, you know what, it's time to write this down?
Oh man, it was a combination of things, because I was put in a unique position because the individuals at the gym that I was training, I don't know, man, they had confidence in me. And whenever they had someone who was hearing impaired, vision impaired, or had some type of issue that the other trainers weren't really adept in handling, they would give that person to me to work with. And I didn't have no experience with that neither, but I just found a way to do it. So I had a unique background as far as working with a lot of different type of people with a lot of different type of situations, and I was able to learn from all of them just as much as they were able to learn from me.
You speak about feeling younger. For the audience, define how do you personally define being young?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, I'm not here to prove how young I am, right? I'm here to prove why people feel older than they should. But to feel young, I really talk about health span in this book, right? And we really don't have any um, control over our lifespan, but health span is the amount of years that you're functional and you're able to chase your dreams, right? And that's really what health is. How mobile are you? What's your spirit like when you step into a room? Are people, is your energy bringing down the room, or is it bringing up the room? Right. And that's what really health is. That's what being young is. You don't have to be a child, but there are some things that are childlike that we lose over time, which accelerates the aging process.
So as you were writing the book, did your working definition change as you was writing the project? You got more than one project about this. Did that evolve and change over time?
Well, the first one was just more like a memoir. So it was more my story and the issues that I had gone through when I was younger. And I guess to answer your question, after I put that first book out, I had gone through some different experiences, and that's what really allowed me to focus more on the health span as opposed to my own story. So it was more like, my clients and what they were going through and how they overcame their issues. And that's where it kind of evolved to more of a self-help type of situation. And I felt that that would broaden the horizon and help more people.
So you mentioned in your book about writing outside, right? I know one of my close friends, the older brother, he always loved to write outside, writing his fictional stories and making characters and everything. So tell us as the audience, what's it like you made that choice to write outside, and what do you gain by not being in a library, not being in a coffee shop? Give us the difference.
Yeah. So at the time that I wrote the first book, Young in Any Age, Secrets to Slowing the Aging Process, I had started that book shortly after I released Quake, but I kind of lacked the inspiration. So I was kind of stuck. I was writing other things, little, blog posts and things like that, but I got stuck as far as the concept of the book. I saw the cover, but I was challenged with how I could fill in the gap and fill in the content to make the book full. So it wasn't until, the COVID lockdowns of 2020 where things had stopped, and it allowed me to process and it allowed me to get back into, that writing format. I took a few writing workshops as well. These were virtual because no one was really allowed to congregate and get together. And that's kind of like what kickstarted the whole process to start writing again. And when I started to, go outside, because I knew I needed sunlight, man. I'm saying? I couldn't stay inside, like they were telling us to do. So I started going outside and I started to be more observant. That's what we're naturally, capable of doing. And I started to notice things with my own body and with the environment around, because things were changing, you know. And that's what really started it, man. So I was just able to write more expressive than I normally was. And it was good because my body wanted to get outside, get that sun, get that fresh air. It's totally different.
Yeah, I think what you saying there in your book, it really made me think to myself, for my writing process, I'm gonna start trying to go outside and write a bit more and see how I feel doing that versus what I've been doing. I want to try that out, man.
Yeah, and another thing I say is that, when you're inside a lot of times, like right now we're on social media, we're doing the Zoom or whatever. And when you're inside, a lot of times you're only looking anywhere from 3 to 10 feet in front of you. So that's your vision. So when you get outside, you're looking hundreds of yards out in the world. You know what I mean? And when you're inside, you're smelling familiar scents. You're smelling, whether it's cleaning products, whether it's cologne, perfume, whatever your wood, synthetic wood that's inside the house. But when you get outside, now you're smelling trees, now you're smelling grass, now you're smelling, nature, right? And all your senses, your hearing, when you're inside, you just hear the hum of the refrigerator, the air conditioner, or the electronic products that you got. But when you outside, you start hearing birds singing, you start hearing different, nature doing its thing. And that really, really influences not only the way you see the world, but the way you process when you're writing. So that was all the things that were happening. And I wasn't conscious of it during the time. It wasn't until I stepped back, 2020, hindsight's 2020, and I was like, wow, that's why my writing really improved, because I was out there and I was exposed to a different stimulus.
So, of course, being the consultant, being the coach, you had your business and everything. Sounds very busy. What was your writing schedule like to make it all fit? Because a lot of my guests watching the show, they're writers, they're aspiring writers. So I try to give them actual tidbits they can use in their own writing practices. What was your writing schedule like?
Yeah, one of the things that I learned from taking those writing workshops was developing a schedule. So I think it's very important for a writer to find out what schedule works for you. For me, it's waking up in the morning because when I wake up in the morning, it's quiet. So I like to choose a quiet time, and this way I can collect my thoughts. And writing becomes a form of meditation. So when you make it consistent, just like you usually eat at a consistent time and you usually go to work at a consistent time, not like you're looking at writing as work, but you're looking at it as a responsibility. So once I started getting in the frame of mind of, okay, this is where I got to do something creative, then it just became a space where I opened up every morning. And that's what I did. And I started to see the accumulation of writing over time. Not everything was brilliant writing, but at least when you exercise that muscle over time, it definitely gets a lot easier to express your thoughts.
I want to marry two concepts together for like a metaphor, right? So you ran not one, but two marathons, which is crazy, by the way, in a short period of time. So my question for you is, in your writing, what helped you to like stay consistent, go against those writing blocks, go against being distracted, whatever kind of frustrations in the writing process, the editing process, and back and forth and all that. What was your like endurance for writing?
Oh man, well I tell you, the process and the training process to running a marathon is intense. And yeah, so in 2023, I ran my first marathon in New York City. And training for that was, I tell you what, a lot of that time, because it takes time to accumulate that type of mileage. A lot of that time, that's when I got a lot of ideas. Yeah, so it was really challenging for me to, it really forced me to work on my memory because I'm not trying to stop my run. If I have 10 miles to run for that day, I'm not trying to stop it. So I have to find a way to either keep repeating what's on my mind until I get back to the phone and I can type it in a word pad or notepad app or
Bro,
whatever.
you sound like
Or
Jay Z. You sound like Jay Z about the lyrical exercise. Like I can't write it down. I gotta keep on saying it in my mind until I get back to the pad. You know what I'm saying?
that's what it is. Yeah, so that was a muscle that I worked. So in addition to working my physical muscles, I was working my mental muscle as well. So that was something that was good because I noticed, and that kind of encouraged me to keep running as well because I was like, wow, okay, so every time I go and I do this, I'm gonna get these ideas chances be right, and that's what happened. So I started to connect stories together every time I went on a training run, and then before you know it, I was able to accumulate chapters, and slowly it became a book. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's pretty much what I did.
It does, man. Because a lot of times in this reader space, the writing space, I mean, by nature of what it is, a lot of it is sedentary. So I'm always trying to advocate in the space like you still need that movement, man. And whenever I study, a lot of writers' habits, whether it's James Patterson, Walter Mosley, you name it in the writer, they most times mention at some point taking a long walk or a light jog or some kind of movement is important for that mental to have that movement, man. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, like right now, I'm standing right now. When I first started doing these, I would sit down, and it's not like I sit down. It's not sitting is not a sin, but I tried to stand more, try to get the blood circulating, and it doesn't always happen when I'm writing, but I try to be consistent with standing and moving. I think that's very important. At least I would say every 45 minutes, every 60 minutes, you should stand up and do some type of movement. That's what I advocate as a trainer as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've been wanting to invest in one of those standing desks, man. The ones that raise up and you can stand up. I've been wanting to get one of those for a minute, man.
Yeah, I just put boxes on the table and just make a makeshift work. But yeah, that'll work too.
So before we move on, doing a marathon twice, what in the world makes a person, Will, after feeling the trauma of the first marathon and all of how your body be broke up for days afterwards and all that, what make a person say, you know what, I want to do that again? How crazy you got to be to sign up twice?
Yeah, I was hearing a lot of people before I went on my first one in New York. I was hearing a lot of people, and they were telling me how they would run, and they would be sore for 7 days and they couldn't walk for 2 weeks. And I heard what they were saying, but it's not that I wanted to prove them wrong, but I just didn't feel that would happen to me because my training was going so well. So after I completed the first one, I rested the next day, but after that, I felt good and I was back running again. Probably ran like 3 miles 2 days after the marathon. So that's when I
Wow,
decided,
2 days.
yeah, yeah. 2 days later, I was
Man,
fine.
you like Wolverine, man. You recovering like a Marvel comic, bro.
I felt good, man. So that's when I decided within like 2, 3 days after the New York marathon, I said, all right, let me sign up for another one. So then less than 3 months later, I completed the second marathon in Fort Lauderdale. And after that, I felt good as well, so it probably took a day or two and I was back running again. So, that's when I really started to ramp up the writing of these books because I was experiencing it. You know what I mean? So I knew from experience because I knew what I was doing during the training. I knew how I was taking care of my flexibility and everything I talk about in the new book. I knew it because I was living it. You know what I mean? So that's what it is.
This is a very important point in the book for any athlete, but anybody, but athletes in particular, because I've been there myself. You describe running as a teacher and not the master. A teacher and not the master. So can you explain that mindset more so? Because after that second one, you could have very well went did a third one, then the fifth one, then keep on going down this rabbit hole. But tell us the reason why you say, you know what, I'm gonna pause for a minute and not pursue that.
Because I got the lessons that running had taught me during that training. And a lot of things it taught me. It taught me patience, because when you're training for a race that long, you have to be patient with yourself during the training process and not expect to do too much too soon. So it taught me that. It's also taught me the importance of, literally running your own race. Now in this social media environment that we're living in, it's really easy to want to try to mimic what everybody else is doing because it may seem so impressive. But when you're running a marathon, you learn the importance of doing what you want to do and being clear about what your goal is, right? What is your intention? What is your desire? And sticking to that plan, like they say, trust the process. So that's one of the things that running taught me. So although I felt good and I probably could have done another one, it just wasn't necessary because I was like, all right, let me focus on other areas and let me use this energy, let me use this knowledge to start a business. And that's when I started True Iron Will during that process. So I learned to put things to the side and, things that are not working. So that takes an evaluation process where you have to be real with yourself. And once I did that, then I said, all right, let me focus my energy on True Iron Will. And that's what I did.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in this book, I love how you have your stats, you have your sources, you have your facts to back up every chapter in the book. So did this book require a lot of research? And if so, what was your research process like to write this book?
Yeah, I did a lot of research. And, some of the feedback that I got from the first book, which was really good, was I guess some people who wanted to share it with their friends and family members and other people that were in need, they were kind of, I don't know, they wanted some proof of where this information was coming from. And I was like, wow, that's cool with me because I didn't want to make the book too technical because I didn't want to lose people. So it was good for me because I got a chance to learn more, and I'm always learning. And that's one of the fun processes about writing these books is you're always learning. So yeah, I definitely did a lot more research, and definitely I've got over 50 sources, scientific, credible scientific studies that people could look and double check themselves and learn themselves along with me in the back of this book. So yeah, it was actually fun for me to do it. It's my first time doing, this many sources, but yeah, it was great.
Now, was there anything you learned in the research process that changed your original vision before deep diving into the research?
Anything that changed? I don't know if there was anything. I mean, you know what? There was some things that I was doing that I wasn't really aware. I'd say there's a chapter where I talk about our reliance on GPS, for example. And I didn't really notice until I did the research how reliant I was on the GPS. So after doing the research, it kind of made me change a little bit. I was like, all right, I got to lay off this stuff and get back to where when I was a kid, I used to have to remember
Bro.
phone numbers and street blocks and addresses and things like that. So it did teach me that all right, there's still some things that you need to learn and you need to change in your own life.
Yeah. I got to speak on that a little tidbit real quick, right? One of my good brothers here named Muhammad. He's a Muslim brother, right? So of course, anywhere we working at, he gonna find a place to go and pray, face the east, do his 5 prayers a day, right? So one day I was like, Muhammad, like how you know where's east? So I thought he was gonna say, I take my phone and he was like, no, because based on this and this, you were pointing at different things in the sky, you were pointing at this, you was like, yeah, in the daytime it looked like this, but at nighttime it's gonna be like I'm looking at him the whole time, like, man, this is crazy. Like that's what our original ancestors did. We wasn't relying on we had our understanding of the cosmos and understanding no matter where I am in the world, like I know how to find the east. You know what I'm saying? Like I really admire whenever he told me that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was true. I mean, I remember I was never a Boy Scout or anything like that, but I knew that there was kids in the neighborhood and they used to have these pocket compass. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool that you could just, know exactly what direction to go. And yeah, they were about, how to make a fire and how to, know when the sun is coming up, like you said, and the sun is coming down. This is all important information that, yeah, we had. And for us to lose that and rely on technology, it's not really the best thing, because what happens when the technology fails? Now all of a sudden, you're out of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get to one of your major themes in the book, clearing the queue. Clearing the queue, man. So tell us, what is clearing the queue and why is that important to include in your publications?
Yeah, so clearing the queue, a lot of times people, we think that we're getting older because of just time, but it's more because of an accumulation of unresolved stress and an accumulation of things that the body's is trying to get rid of, because the body's always talking to you. It's just that a lot of us have lost touch and we no longer know how to interpret the language that our body is trying to communicate to us in. And clearing the queue is addressing those things before they get worse, because they're just going to accumulate. They're just going to get more severe. It's kind of like if you have a pet and that pet wants to go out. It's going to try to, try to signal you that it wants to go out. And if you ignore it, you're going to come back and you're going to see the furniture is going to be torn up. You're going to see excrement on the floor. You're going to see disaster in your living room. You're going to have to address that. And that's what happens with the body. So the longer that we try to suppress things, right, or the longer we try to just avoid things, it's just going to keep getting worse. You're going to keep losing your mobility, keep getting stiffer. That's how you get old. So you definitely got to clear the queue.
So for anybody watching this podcast right now or later on, whenever they watch it, man, what's some of the first things a person could do that's simple, start clearing their queue, like right now watching this? What could they start thinking about doing to clear some of the queue?
Yeah, so depending on your physical abilities, you can do something like I mentioned before, real simple. You can set a clock, set a reminder on your phone that every hour on the hour or every 45 minutes, you go and you do some type of movement. It could be 10 body weight squats. It could be a walk, especially after dinner. A lot of times we eat dinner, it's 6, 7, 8 o'clock, and you're eating dinner and then you stay sedentary in front of the television, in front of the computer, and now the food doesn't get to circulate throughout the body. So everything starts to stay still, and that's an issue for a lot of people. So something simple like that, just incorporating more movement throughout the day. And when you're incorporating that movement, it could be only 2 minutes. So every hour in the hour, just incorporate 2 minutes of movement, and that should help things dramatically.
Man, you taking me back, man. Back in the day, the concept called greasing the groove. You probably heard about it in the training world, greasing the groove, right? But I had a pull-up bar in my doorway, and while I'm sitting there watching a 2-hour football game, for every commercial, I just go and do like 5 pull-ups, and then watch the game again. Then do 5 pull-ups, just over a course of a day, though, doing little small threes and fives, the accumulation per day is like it becomes higher and higher, man. So you're right, little small things you can do that take a little couple minutes.
That's right.
Let's think about stress, man. People say that stress kills and they take it very casually, but how dangerous is stress? And what signs do people normally ignore?
Yeah, stress is definitely a killer. One of the signs there are a few signs. Sleeping for 7 8 hours and still feeling fatigued, that's a problem. Digestive issues, like acid reflux and all different types of disturbances in the gut area. That's a problem. Um, Joint issues, stiffness. That's another issue. Just being irritable, irritable all the time. These are signs of stress that's been accumulating and needs a proper channel to be released. And a lot of times we see it, but we're not really sure or we don't understand what it is. But that's what it is. And these are some of the things that need to be addressed.
We're living in very, very unique times right now, man, with the economy and a lot of things going on politically and other things like the average person is carrying so many things right now, right? People working multiple jobs, just trying to live. Like, what are some things they can do right now that I start trying to ease some of that burden that they're carrying all the time?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think helps is finding a purpose. And it's difficult. I understand that because I've been in that position where I'm doing 2 3 jobs, right, just to pay bills, and that's not a good position to be in. But when you find a purpose, then somehow, some way, you find time to etch for that whatever it is, and you find time to incorporate that in your day. And that's like your north star. So no matter how dark it is, you can find a little path to where you can always go to that whatever it is, and it'll give you some sense of comfort or some sense of fulfillment. And I think that that's all we need. So it could be little, it could be little at first, but the more you feed into it like a plant, it starts to grow, and over time it overtakes everything else. So I think that that's important, to implement.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. Let's talk about tailor-made program. Let's talk about personalization, right? We live in a time where a person might see a person that looks good, and they want to do exactly what they're doing. What are you taking? What are you eating? They want to do everything that person doing to get that result. But think about how important it is to have something that's tailor made for your body, your situation, your needs. Talk about that.
Yeah, so that's extremely important. That's something that I really teach to all my clients, because I've seen too many people just get injured unnecessarily trying to do something that they saw someone else doing. So the first step is knowing your body. So when I train with my clients, the first thing I do is an assessment to find out exactly where they are, health wise, because everyone has different health issues, whether they're taking, some type of, you know, um, medication or whatever, or if they have some past injuries, which may limit them in certain areas. But everyone also has a strength as well. So through the process of getting to know people, and I think you should get to know yourself first, then you'll be able to have more of a conversation with your trainer to let that person know how to help you. But if you're doing it yourself, it's important to know where you can and where you can excel. And it's very, very important to have something customized, because that's the safest way to do it, because when you get injured early on in the process, especially after you haven't been training for a long period of time, then it's very easy to quit, because you're like, man, well, I tried, it didn't work, that's it. And then you just go back to the old habits. But if you're patient and you do it correctly and you do it smart, then you can see the benefits and you give yourself time. And then you could look back at the pictures that you take and you can say, wow, I'm way better right now, So I think that is extremely important to be someone that is personalized.
So if anybody watching this, man, going into that gym world is not familiar, I know whenever I was personal trainer in a large gym and we had 15, 20 trainers on the staff, Whenever I wasn't training a client, I'm just sitting there watching somebody else training people, and you realize they're doing the same thing with all of their clients. But as an NFL player, a grandmother, a brand new mom, they're not tailoring it. They just got something they wrote last night real quick, or they might have chat GPT these days. They chat GPT'd it. And now we're doing this today, all my sessions. Like you gotta be mindful of those things that happen out there sometimes in the industry, unfortunately.
That's a very good point. And I noticed that same thing too. And one of the things I noticed is that either those people would fall off because they got injured, or they would just lose motivation because the workouts were too difficult for them at that point in their development. And it just doesn't work for the trainer, it doesn't work for the client. I've noticed that too, man.
So give us the iron wheel philosophy. What is the philosophy and how did it develop?
Yeah, so the True Iron Will philosophy is an acronym for wellness. So W is whole plant nourishing foods, E is exercise, L is life purpose, L is light therapy, N is nature bonding, E is elongation, stretching, mobility, S is sleep, like we mentioned before, and S is social connection, which is very important. So I noticed over time when you put all those components and into the best of, into your lifestyle, the best of your ability. No one's going to be perfect, but when you add all those components, I've noticed that people all over the world, myself, my clients, that's when they start to express wellness.
You just said the phrase social connection. Now, ever since the pandemic, I noticed the amount of people that I know. We all have smartphones, we all have thousands of followers, but they have a lack of actual friends, actual circle, a safe space, or anything like that. So speak about the importance of social connection. And some folks think, man, I don't need people in my life. I don't need to have social circles. I can door dash everything. I can get things brought to my house. I don't need to go and socialize at the store. So talk about the importance of socializing.
I think you bring up a great point. In this world of social media, we have increased amounts of depression, and we have people really dealing with issues. And you would never know it because if you see someone's personality and persona on social media, you would think that everything is all good. But you have to have some type of social connection. And yeah, like you said earlier, I think that during the COVID lockdowns, that really became evident, man, because I know for me, when I started to get back out around people, it just felt better. It was one thing to connect with people that you haven't in a long time because they weren't as busy as they were, so you can connect with them on social media. And I think there's always going to be a strength to that. And there's always going to be a tool in that matter, right? But as far as getting with a community of people that actually care about your whereabouts and that you could actually experience the human connection with, there's nothing like that. And that's what we're missing right now, big time. So that's why you see sometimes the emergence of things like, especially the younger generation, they have running clubs. This has been something that's been emerging over the past couple of years, and workshops and things of that nature. I think that these are very important because without the human connection, we just remain disconnected. And we're living in a real disconnected society right now because everyone's just behind their screens and just shooting off opinions and not really getting a true understanding of what we're really about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's go straight into the next question about technology. Technology addiction. Technology and social media can be addictive, sometimes stronger than drugs. So why is this such a serious problem, Will?
Yeah, it's serious because, like I mentioned, just being disconnected, and I think that it's important for us to use technology in a proper way, And technology is great. I mean, let's face it, it's taken us a long way, but I think the over reliance on technology can cause us problems because we start to outsource so many of the skills that we had before to technology. And some of the things should be outsourced for the importance of being able to do more things at a faster rate. So I think that's awesome. But I think the fundamentals can never be replaced. So the fundamentals, like we talked about before, social connection and all the other things in the wellness acronym, I think that those things can never be replaced. And when we're trying to replace them with other things that are artificial, it's just not going to work out in the long run.
And these days and times, like right now, currently, I'm doing a social media fast kind of thing. We do it like yearly, right? But like, talk about whenever you are an author or a business person, and we live in a very social media driven world when it comes to marketing, promotion, making content, doing flyers, all these things. Like, you kind of sort of have to be tapped in for the sake of your livelihood. So talk about trying to balance limiting technology with the, the thing that we're doing right now. Like, speak about that.
Yeah, for me, it's become a non-negotiable as far as spending time in nature and shutting everything off. And yeah, like you said, that could be inconvenience, when you're a business owner. But I think that it's necessary to have that time to reset. Very important to reset. There's a lot of things that you can do on social media that's automated, where you can set, schedules, and you can set posts, and I'm not a master at that by no means, so I'm not one that claims to be that. But I think that as technology advances, I think it's even more important to set that time and make non-negotiable time where you're, taking your shoes off and you're going, not for the people right now that are experiencing harsh winters, but and within reason, going out, getting some grounding and experiencing time in nature so you can reset. Because now with the emergence of artificial intelligence, we're seeing so many things on the screen and we can't even differentiate whether they're real or not. So after that, for hours and hours and hours, you become numb and you become desensitized to the people that's actually around you in real life, which is one of the reasons why you might be, last time I was on the subway, it was years ago, but there was 100 people in the car and everyone's on their social media, everyone's on their platform, you can't even see the people around you. So I think that that's kind of strange, especially if you're an alien from another planet and you're looking at that. That's kind of strange behavior. So I think we need to change that.
Yeah, man. Speak about the power of grounding. Now, some people are skeptical about grounding. Some people worry about religious conflict, as far as the practices and everything like that. But what's your take on, like you said, take your shoes off, go out there for a little while, get in the soil, get in the ground. First of all, the tactile, getting your toes off of these artificial surfaces, man, concrete and tiles and floors and stuff like that. Talk about the importance of grounding.
Yeah, so I wrote about that in my first book, and the thing I wrote about was that I remember my childhood. I went several years where I didn't even go to the beach. You know what I'm saying? And then I remember so many times where it was always shoes on, and it was always, I mean, all day. And it wasn't until, again, going back to the lockdowns in 2020, where I was able to go to the beach. And I remember the way that I felt when I left. And that always stuck with me. And then I started to do some research on the power of grounding. And that's when I started to confirm, because every time I went and I tried to actually exercise what I was reading, I felt better. So the way I was feeling, there was nothing that surpassed that. And that charge, we carry a lot of charge throughout the course of the day with these electronic products, and we're static. Like, that's why sometimes you may touch somebody and you see or you feel that shock, because we're carrying all this negative charge. Well, we have to at some point disperse that charge into the ground, because the ground has its own frequency. And the closer we get to that frequency, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through grounding, whether it's touching a tree, you touch a tree and all of a sudden you get that charge, that positive charge, you feel better. If you have any pets, you let that pet out the door and that dog goes out, or a cat or whatever goes outside. They're not wearing shoes. They come back inside. You hug the dog, you hug the cat, and you feel better. That's that charge. You know what I mean? So we need to really get in contact with that on a regular basis. So I try to do that as often as I can, like I said, within reason, but yeah, it's really a serious way that you can improve your life.
Yeah, man. And talk about this being a runner. You know, being a runner and a coach. Your feet are important. Like once your feet are injured, you know, plantar fasciitis, other kind of injuries happen in distance running if you're not changing your shoes out. But you spend so much time in those soles, man. You spend so much time in these artificial soles of different kinds, man. And how detrimental was that on movement, mobility, flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. You know?
Yeah, so that's important too. That's another thing that I learned because when I was training for those marathons, this is when I really started to experiment with that. You know, running a marathon, I would say I'm not at the point where I could wear those thin shoes yet, but I did notice that whenever I was grounding in between training sessions, it did make a big difference. So since the second marathon, I have made a transition, and 90% of the time I'm wearing thinner soles. And what I noticed over time is that my feet spread because your feet are supposed to be like fan shaped, right? But when you're wearing these I guess you can say modern day shoes, yeah, your toes are all crunched up. And what happens is as you get older, that's going to affect your ability to balance because you have less of a surface area to actually balance yourself as you get older. And you have thousands and thousands of nerve endings that are on the bottom of your feet. And I ask people all the time, I'm like, well, do you know what the thickest skin in the human body is? A lot of times they don't know, but the thickest skin in the human body is the bottom of your feet. So you got to ask, why is that? Because it's meant for you to develop some type of a resistance within reason. You're not going to, step on glass, step on hot coals, but within reason, these are nerves that are sending messages, important messages for your survival and your proprioception and your balance. So as you get older, this becomes vital. And if you're staying so much time in thick soles and your feet are crunched together, it's definitely going to have a negative effect on you as you get older.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it, man. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. My next question before we get out of here, time flies, man. Time flies. Um, oh, in the back of your book, the back of the publication, I love this. You have actual recipes, smoothies. You have all of your 50 sources. You have things for like journaling and clearing the queue. Why was it important to have this back matter in your publication?
Yeah, it was vital because one of the issues that a lot of people have when transitioning to a healthier lifestyle is they don't know what to prepare because for so many years they were following family recipes or they were just out and about and fitting into what other people around them, whether it's coworkers or what have you, were doing. And now you're trying to make a change and you're starting to understand that these changes will affect the way that you operate in society and the way that you age. Now it's a transition. So I felt that I said, let me share some of the things that have worked for me and some of the things that have worked for my clients. They're simple. I'm not really a gourmet chef or anything like that. So I'm pretty simple with it. But as long as the nutrients is there and the content is there, your body is going to love it because your body's going to notice the change and it's going to adapt with the new tools that it has to build new tissues and to strengthen yourself over time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to talk about grind culture, man. Grinding culture. Because again, for economic reasons, I know so many people that have multiple jobs and they're working 16, 18-hour days, about like all year long. Think about like what's the drawback of just grinding, working. Like what's the drawback of not getting that proper rest, recovery, downtime, etc. Think about
I know from personal experience that I know that I was always operating at less than 100%. So the debt that I carried from the day before went into the next day. So it just was a cumulative effect. And I just wasn't able to be my best. And over time, other people notice that and you start to notice it. And it just makes life a lot more difficult when you're not sleeping and you're not providing your body with nutrients and you're not doing the other things that the body needs to do because I love to say that, or I used to say that we're like machines, when we're in that grind culture, whether it's in the gym or whether it's, working like you said. And it sounds cool to be saying no days off. Yeah. And I'm not saying, but you got to take some time for yourself to recuperate and reset. That's just a necessity. It's just like any other animal. I mean, you see the apex predators, the lions and the tigers. What are they doing a lot of times? They're sleeping. You
Man,
know what I
they
mean?
sleep, bro. They sleep.
They sleep
They
like
sleep.
seriously, and they're not lazy because when it's time to get busy, they get busy. You know what I mean? But you have to reset and you have to allow your wounds to heal, so to speak, and you have to allow your brain to clear out. Like I was mentioning before, clearing the queue. It's got to clear out the waste. You got to regenerate with proper nutrition and sleep, and then you're ready to go for the next day. So the grind culture is taking a toll on a lot of people, and I understand for some people it's necessary at a certain time. So I get that. But at some point, that's going to come back and that's going to cause problems.
Yeah, man. I want to have a little fun right quick. So doing my research on your page, I came across this might be an older video, I don't know. But you were spitting some hot bars, man. You were spitting some rhymes, man, doing your thing. My man Will got incredible bars, man. So my question is, how did that creativity of writing hip hop and doing hip hop production, how did that cross over into your regular writing like this normal writing? Is there any kind of carryover you would say from doing it?
Man, hip hop is in my veins, man. I've been doing it since probably sixth grade. So that was kind of a way for me to keep exercising my writing skills. And it's just one form to another. So whether it's writing haikus, whether it's writing poems, whether it's writing books, whether it's writing rhymes, whether it's writing scripts, screenplays, it's just another discipline. And it takes a certain amount of time to devote to get better at it. And as far as rhymes, I spent a lot of time writing and emulating other people and trying to find my own way. And it's just a fun way to pass the time. And yeah, I love it, man, to this day.
So Will, age old question, who is in your top five, dead or alive?
Oh man, it changes from day to day because I think there's more than five. I can't say five, but if you ask me today, I would say Nas, I would say Jay Z, Tupac, Black Thought, and if I had to do another one, number five, I'd say Kendrick Lamar.
Man, you can't go wrong with that five, man. Interchangeable. You can't go wrong with that five at all, man. It's a great five. It's a great five, right? So I love to ask my artists a lot of questions about what they're reading. And you being an athlete and being in the life coaching field, what are some of the life changing books you read when it comes to health, wellness, fitness, things like that? What's some of the best that you advise somebody watching this show? Like, go and check this book out, change your life.
Uh, I would say there's one book in particular. I would say the 80-10-10. That was one book that was I had to read that because when I became a holistic nutritional consultant, that was one of the required readings. And books like that really helped me tremendously because one of the toughest things for me at the time, like it is for most people, is nutrition. So I needed something simple. Emails, as funny as it may sound, office emails that we used to pass around. And sometimes it's hit or miss, but there used to be emails that I would get a lot of knowledge from, and I would, try to implement it. And then I seen the difference in the way I felt. And yeah, something as simple as that. And I,
Thank
and
you.
I guess another thing I would say, there's another book. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was by Herbert Shelton. Dr. Herbert Shelton, one of the founders or one of the pioneers in the natural hygienic movement. Those are some serious books that I read that really had a big influence as well. There were books that by Dick Gregory that I've read. I can't remember the names of right now. Really had some big influence on me as well. Yeah.
Oh man, I just caught myself. I didn't want to miss this one question. I didn't write it on my paper, but I thought about it after the fact. The power of breath and breathing and being in martial arts, being in boxing, and of course running and weightlifting, all these things, the power of controlling your breath and being mindful of your breath and your inhalation, exhalation is all important. Think about that to the audience, the chapter on breathing and the importance of recognizing your breath. Speak on that.
Yeah, I just recently had a seminar. I hosted a seminar, and I was teaching box breathing. So box breathing is a technique where you inhale for going around that box. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and you do that for a cycle of time. And one of the reasons why that breathing is so important is because it actually opens up the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's the rest and the digest part of the nervous system. And that's a big issue because, like you mentioned, the grind culture. If you're always grinding and you're not resting, you're always going to be in that fight or flight mode. And over time, that's just going to wear you down. So the importance of breathing is oh man, I can't even stress it enough. And especially breathing through your nose. That's another thing. A lot of times we breathe through our mouths, and our mouths are made for eating and they're made for drinking, but it's not really made for breathing unless it's a real dangerous situation, and maybe you have to breathe through your mouth. But a lot of us are breathing through our mouth instead of breathing through our nose, and that's a big issue. There's a reason why we have hairs in our nostrils to filter out the air while we're breathing. So things like that, these are small things that people can incorporate and make a big difference.
Yeah, so whenever you're running your marathons, or whenever you're just training, what do you listen to? Because I know for me individually, back to personalized, whenever I run, I play R&B music because it helped me keep my breathing at a more consistent, controlled pace. When I play hip hop, I'm overrunning almost because it's hip hop. We're going fast, you know. When I sprint train, I play hip hop. When I run, I play R&B. So what do you play whenever you're running for breathing and pace, things like that?
It's funny, as much as I love hip hop, I tried to listen. One time I had headphones and I tried to listen to hip hop. It didn't work, and I never looked back. And that was a long time ago. So whenever I'm running, that's like my time where I'm moving and I'm meditating at the same time. So that's when a lot of my ideas come, and that's when I just go outside. I go outside with nothing, and I come back with a lot. You know what I mean? So I come back by observing my environment. It comes back to me. So yeah, when I run, I'm strictly no music, no sound. I want to hear everything that's going on around me
Wow,
because
that's
yeah,
incredible. Even whenever you sprint train,
absolutely. Yeah, if I'm in the
so
gym,
so both of those, no music, no nothing.
no. If I'm in the gym,
Wow.
uh, which is rare because I do train outside a lot, but if I am in the gym, I'll listen to whatever they have on the radio. And a lot of times, if I'm in my zone, I might block it out. You know what I mean? But if it's something I want to listen to, I might listen to it, but it's not going to affect the way I train at all.
Man, that's incredible, man. I definitely enjoyed my time with the brother, man. He got multiple publications, not just one. So please go and check his page, check his catalog, tap into the brother, man. As you can tell, very incredible, smart, sharp, upstanding brother, man. What's coming up next for you, Will? I mean, this book just came out, but are there any other things in the future or any other kind of things that you tapped into?
Well, I'm going to be touring, so I'm going to be hitting up a lot of bookstores, and I'm going to be doing conferences. So I'm going to be out and about, meeting with the people, helping as many people as I can. So I'm definitely going to be out there. And if anybody wants to get in contact with me, it's trueironwill.com, and everything about me is right there.
Yes, yes, true iron will, man. You've seen it here, right here on the Sean P Experience. If you're watching this now or watching this later, still drop comments and I'll try to answer those questions fast as I can and get them over to my man Will. Thank you very, very much. You've been an incredible guest. I enjoyed both of your books you sent to me. I appreciate the information and the knowledge. It really, really helped to recharge myself, man. So I really appreciate that. And for the audience, I have another podcast on Thursday. The flyers already posted. Go and check the page. Flyers posted. I will see you all Thursday at 3 o'clock. Peace.